Namaste, everybody. We are back again, and we're continuing with the series of Tithis with Archalaji. So I want to welcome Archalaji again. Namaste, Archalaji. Welcome again. So we're going to continue with our series on Tithis, and today we're going to do Shashti Tithi. So please, Archalaji, go ahead and tell us all the secrets of Shashti Tithi.
Okay, I will just share my screen. Okay. So today we will be talking about Shashti Tithi, and like Panchami was the last Tithi of the series of 5 Rajasic Tithis, Shashti Tithi starts actually the Tamas Guna and Tamasic Tithis. So all the Tamasic Tithis we often kind of tend to talk so badly about Tamas Guna, but Tamas Guna in terms of Tithis specifically mean actually a very physical energy, let's put it like that. So people who are born on any of the Tamasic Tithis are usually simply very down-to-earth people because they are simply very much in the physical world, and like tangibility is very important for them. So these are not anymore people who are about very creative energies and just starting something, because the people who like to just start something and use their creative energy a lot are usually born on one of the Rajasic Tithis. On Tamasic Tithis are born people who actually are not afraid of hard work, and they actually like to already work with something very tangible. While on Sattvic Tithis usually are born people who are more, let's say, into spiritual world, so they are neither interested in creating anything in material world, neither in sustaining it, neither into destroying it, because they are actually into reaching beyond, mostly. But again, this is like a very, very generic information, and loads of other planetary placements need to be taken into consideration. So Shashti Tithi is governed by goddess Vajreshwari, so I would just like to quickly honor the goddess in that form before we start. Om Aim Hrim Shrim Om Vajreshwari Deviye Namaha. So goddess Vajreshwari, Vajra literally means strong, a powerful one, like a diamond. It can also mean a lightning. Ishwari means the supreme controller. So she's actually a powerful or strong like a diamond, or adamant also. So these are very adamant people also, born on this lunar day. Whenever they want something, they usually go for that, straightforward. So it's very, very interesting lunar day, all in all. And because this is the first lunar day governed by planet Venus too, and this is also governed by fire element, as we'll see on another slides, these people are very much about things which are tangible. They like to make things strong, stable, powerful, like Vajra, and visible also. So these are also the people, like whenever you're talking to them, or explaining them something, for them just to receive information from you verbally, it's not that easy for them to remember that. They actually need a visual presentation. It's very important for them. So these are also very creative people, similarly like Panchami natives, but they are more about creating something very tangible in the real world. So goddess herself, she looks very sweet on this picture, but her hue is red. She has 4 hands, and in her right hand she has ankusha and pomegranate fruit, which also shows that she has lots of these fertile energies actually in herself. And it's true, actually Shashti Tithi is also said to have lots of fertility, similarly like Panchami, but Panchami was actually more considered in the past and by the scriptures as good day for romance, romantic interaction with the partner, while Shashti was considered as a Tithi which actually protected the birth of the child. So it's more connecting, already giving birth to something. So also people born on this lunar day, they like to give birth to something already, make it actually real. So it's a very special lunar day. And her garments are also red. She has also pasha and sugarcane bone in her left hands. And one thing which is very unique for this goddess is how Tantra Raja is describing her, that she is actually sitting on her yantra on a boat, and this boat is in a huge ocean of blood. And it's very interesting because if we look at this goddess here on the picture, she looks so sweet and nice and kind. But actually, people born on this lunar day, they can also have a little bit tough personality sometimes, you know, in a way. Not always, but they can have some sort of, you know, quality, being a little bit like a prankster, you know, or sometimes if the Tithi Lord is in any way afflicted or the moon is afflicted, they may actually really willingly inflict pain on others too. So this blood can be metaphoric, but it can be quite literal also in some cases. So also specific thing, which what this ocean of blood is symbolizing, above all, it symbolizes the vital power. Because blood is our prana, right? Blood is where our life force is flowing. And also, obviously, it's connected with all the fertile powers, with all the fertility. So it's not only about the destruction here, but again, also about giving birth to something and about controlling our inner power, controlling our life force. So what is very specific for these natives, because Venus is actually one of the rulers here, being the planetary ruler, and planet Venus, like Shukra, literally what Shukra means, it means the semen, right? It means the seed of life. And this is why for these people, they sometimes might actually have a problem with controlling their life force. They might spend too much of their life force on pleasures in life, or they might have this tendency simply not to be able to control their life force or any of their instincts properly. And there's this beautiful story in Bengal, because in Bengal there is actually a worship of Devi who is called Shashti also, which is very, very interesting. And this Devi is riding on a cat also. And there's this entire story about Shashti Devi, how she's actually protecting people who are sincere, but that she's not that kind to people who actually can't control their greed and who are unable to actually share with others as well. And so this is a very, very interesting story all in all. And it's very different in there are many, many different versions of this story, but the entire, like, let's say, point of this story is to show that to this goddess, usually women are praying to, first of all, help them in pregnancy, help to also protect their child once the child is born, but also the goddess is worshipped, so to help us to overcome these negative qualities, specifically greed, actually. So this is a very, very interesting thing, all in all, because you can even see that the color of the moon here is rati, or passion, right? The element is fire, but it's tamas, so it's tamasic fire. And tamasic fire is literally the fire of passion. It's the fire of actually indulgence in the material world. It's the fire that actually burns our personal life force instead of making us more pure or refining us more. So one of the biggest, I believe, the biggest really challenge for natives born on this lunar day is to simply overcome some of their tendencies, instincts, qualities, seeking for pleasure, greed, and things like that. Which is why divine quality here is detachment, actually. We can also see that stage of consciousness here is dreaming and dreaming. So by that, we can also understand that these are very, very creative people who love to create many different things, but who also like to make things tangible, physical, because guna is tamas. And one interesting thing is that the form of Shiva here is Nataraja, the Shiva as a dancer, as cosmic dancer. And Shiva as cosmic dancer, besides obviously being a strong indicator towards creativity, but Shiva in the form of Nataraja, he actually also symbolizes the movements of atoms in the universe. So you can also find scientists actually with this specific lunar phase. We can actually find atheists also who believe that everything is just created by nature and nothing else. So this we can find actually a lot. And this is very true actually to both Tithis governed by Venus. Because Shukracharya, after all, he was guru of demons. And demons were very atheistic sometimes, unfortunately. So this is one quality which we can definitely find, that sometimes these people can be very, very, very skeptical when it comes to certain things. And sometimes even if they're interested in spirituality, it might be simply hard for them to actually overcome their negative qualities and to overcome their greed or some attachments, literally, to certain pleasures which they might have. it's quite also symbolic for me personally that Venus in general as a planet is connected in Kala Chakra to the Western direction, because West direction is definitely one of the most romantic directions, right? Because this is when the sunset is happening. But West direction is also one of the most tiring, actually, placements for the sun, right? Sun is there debilitated, but also many people actually feel like physically very tired during the sunset. So it's also a very powerful indicator that we must always kind of take a good care of our life force and on which activities, which thoughts, which words we choose to spend our life force. Because at the end of the day, sooner or later we'll be bereft of it. Sooner or later we'll have our own sunset in our life when we'll have no energy anymore. And this is also what Shashti Tithi is kind of trying to inspire us to. Because Shashti is also strongly connected to Muruga or Kartikeya. We can find it in many scriptures as well that they are associating Shashti Tithi with Kartikeya and taking it actually as a birth Tithi also of Kartikeya. And Kartikeya is this young, eternally young son of Shiva. And why he's eternally young? Because he's connected with Mars, right? He's connected with actual self-control of our life force. And he's also eternal brahmachari and so on. So it's very, very interesting thing, you know, when we think about this entire Tithi and what kind of qualities it's awakening in us. And the nakshatras which have similar guna and similar tattva, like Shashti Tithi, are Bharani, Pushya, and Purva Falguni. And it's very interesting because if you think about these three nakshatras, they actually really like their comfort. They really like pleasures, actually. We sometimes don't think of Pushya nakshatra in this way, but just from my personal practice and personal observation, people with moon specifically in Pushya, they really love their comfort zone, actually. They really love their little pleasures in life. So it's a very, very interesting thing. And as we know that the number of hands of each of these deities also stands for some exact nakshatra padas, the nakshatra padas connected with these exact deity are the four padas of Ashlesha nakshatra. And this I find very, very interesting because Ashlesha nakshatra, the yoni or the animal here is actually cat, similarly like the vehicle of Shashti Devi. So it's a very, very interesting thing that it's all so strongly connected. And actually people born on Shashti Tithi, they might sometimes really have some Ashlesha qualities. They might be short-tempered sometimes, very short-tempered. They might be also have this very scientific mind as well, because Ashlesha natives, they have this scientific mind and they have this strong intuition and strong wisdom as well. So lots of interesting qualities can be found here, definitely. And the vowel connected to Shashti Tithi is U, the long U, which is also connected to Kritika nakshatra. So this Tithi, all in all, is very, very fiery. Fiery in a little bit more, in a little bit more explosive, let's put it like that way, because like snakes or nagas can be very impulsive. These people can be impulsive as well. But there's lots of this fire, and these people need to be simply very careful not to abuse this fire, not to abuse the life force, and to understand that life force is actually sacred, and if we spend too much of it on activities which are actually just exhausting the life force, we may end up at the end of the day or at the end of our life being completely bereft of this life force. So that's one very powerful lesson here. And that is the yantra of Goddess Vajreshwari. It's actually a very common yantra. Some other devis will have a very, very similar ones. So there's a Shatkona, the six-angled figure, which also is the number 6 here, and some of the petals. So it's a very balanced yantra in a way. It's not too sharp, but it's also not too weak, let's put it like that, not too soft. So similarly, these people, they can be soft, definitely, but they can be very sharp too when it's needed. And this is how the moon looks like during Shukla Shashti. So there's more and more light coming here. And this is how the moon looks like during Krishna Shashti. So the light is slowly decreasing, but there's still fairly a big amount of light. So both during Shukla Shashti and during Krishna Shashti, there is quite a good amount of light abiding with the moon. So the moon is quite shining as well, which is why both for Shukla Shashti and for Krishna Shashti, very often very often those natives actually are very interested in actually creating something in the world, regardless whether they're born in Shukla Paksha or Krishna Paksha. So it's a little bit more, how to say, nature which is looking a little bit more outwards. And this is also why this group of Tithis, which is Shashti, Saptami, Ashtami, Navami, and Dashami, are in a way we are calling them tamasic Tithis, because tamas guna is connected with this physical, material reality. And during tamasic Tithis, paradoxically, we'll see a very similar thing when it comes to the amount of light, both during Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha. So there's fairly big amount of light during all of these Tithis in both Pakshas. So this is probably one of the reasons why, because then the awareness is very much looking towards the outside. So that was just a little bit from me, and very short about Shashti Tithi, Dr. Paiji.
So, Achalaji, whenever you talk about any tithis, I always, connect with so many things that is running in my mind. Firstly, the observation that I had on this Nitya Devi, which starts with the tamasic cycle. And if you see, all the other Nitya Devis have their left feet on the lotus, which shows Rajasic influence. Is the first Devi where you see both her feet are, firmly folded up. And that shows the detachment she has from, all those things. It's more tamas, where both the feet.
Yes.
If everybody can notice, all the other Nitya Devis that you have seen, their left feet would be on a, on a lotus flower. So this is where you see Ishwari has both her feet folded. That's the first thing. Secondly, what I have to say with Shashti is Shashti, as you rightfully mentioned, whenever we look at most of the texts, okay, they're all connected to Kartikeya, Murugan, or Skanda. Okay, and that's why you see why is Skanda called as Shanmuga. Shanmuga means six-headed. So there is a very strong correlation that you can see, and he is a warrior, and you can see Vajreshwari's hue is red, her garment is red. There's a very strong correlation with red energy, and you see that she's also having a pomegranate, where the seeds of the pomegranate are also red, and many of the people who are into healing and holistic healing, they say once you've got a healing, typically they say that you have to have a lot of pomegranate or red colored things like beetroot, or you have pomegranate, because that enhances the RBCs in your body. So red energy is also very good for building that passion within you.
Yes.
So that's one of the things that I've seen. Another thing that I've seen with this nakshatra, when you mentioned, is the connection with the number of hands, and the nakshatra is Ashlesha nakshatra. There is a temple in the southern part of India. It's called Subramanya. Subramanya is nobody but his Muruga or Skanda, and he seems to have control over all the serpents, which is the the predecessor Tithi, which is called we have the Panchami Tithi, which is connected to Nagas, and Shashti is always connected to Skanda and Muruga, and this Subramanya is where there are specific serpent-related worships which are done when moon is transiting Ashlesha Nakshatra, and it's called as Ashlesha Bali, and they also do a lot of Sarpa Samskar. So, if your ancestors have, or you or your ancestors have hurt any serpents, then the serpents are to be given the same rituals that you give to a human being. The same, the final rites that you give to human beings are the same things which are given to the serpents, and so they conduct these rituals in this temple called Subramanya, where he's been seen sitting on a peacock, because peacock has the ability to control all the serpents in the feet. So that's a very strong correlation. And Varaha Mira, whether you look at Brahat Samhita, Purva Kalamrita, And there's another text. So all these three texts are talking about its connection with Kartikeya. Even
Yes.
Abraham Mira says the deity which is connected to this nakshatra, although he says the planetary ruler is Venus. Okay,
Yes.
and it's a beautiful thing that you mentioned in the next slide, Achalaji, that you said uh, the element is fire. So the deity associated is Agni with this nakshatra,
Yes.
with this Tithi. Okay, and you said the direction is west, and the planetary ruler is Venus. You also mentioned this, that whenever the sun is setting, you see, Venus energies are very high, and that's why you say the rising sun is associated with Mercury, and the setting sun is associated with Venus, and that's why you see a lot of romanticism happen around that time. Is a setting
Yes.
sun. You can see people holding hands on the beach side where there's a setting sun. So it's all about those elements which are activated here with Agni, and with the West and Venus seeing very strongly correlated here. So it's I'm seeing a lot of correlations and a lot of beautiful things associated with the Vajreshwari, but a very strong correlation. And also what you mentioned, that there's a goddess called Shashti Devi, and the
Yes.
animal which is associated with Shashti Devi is a cat. And let's not forget that Ashlesha Nakshatra, the animal for the Ashlesha Nakshatra, is also a cat.
Mm.
So there is some very strong correlation between a cat, Ashlesha Nakshatra, and Shashti Tithi. And many people who have been unable to have children, so they do worship on two different tithis. One is definitely they do worship of serpents on Panchami Tithi, and they follow it with the Shashti Tithi and Shuddha Shashti. They say Shuddha means Shukla Shashti. That's when Muruga or Skanda or Kartikeya is worshipped for protection of the children. In many of the
Yes.
scriptures, you will see Skanda as being very difficult, and early childhood illnesses and smallpox,
Yes.
chickenpox. These are all the things which are associated. So they say, they worship Skanda during that period. So all those people who have not been able to beget children, one of the themes I've seen in many of the scriptures, they mentioned about keeping fast and having prayers to Skanda, because he was also born as a he was born like an IVF child, isn't it?
Yes,
He had
exactly. Mm.
Kritikas nurturing him. So people who
And
have
it's
the
actually so beautiful, because even if you see that, actually Shashti is also connected with Kritika Nakshatra, so it's a very interesting
yeah,
thing.
Kritika is nothing but Pleiades. Pleiades is nothing but, again, what we say is Kartikeya. So all those people who have been having childlessness or child related issues, I have seen this as popularly in many of the scriptures mentioned that you keep fast and keep reverence and visit a Muruga temple and pray, offer your prayers to Muruga or Skanda or
Mm.
Kartikeya. You're definitely going to have children. So this is as per the scriptures I'm mentioning.
Yeah.
And also, let us not forget that there could be some serpentine curses, which also Skanda helps you to, overcome. And that's why I was talking about this concept of Ashlesha Bali and Sarpa Samskar, which is followed in a temple in the southern part of India called as Subramanya.
Mm.
Many, personalities and celebrities go here, and they do. It's a 2-day festival that you have to be in the temple. You have to stay there, and you have to do these rituals. So ultimately, all those offerings are given to the main god Subramanya. Subramanya is nothing but Kartikeya. So beautiful session. I think I could correlate so many things that you're mentioning, related to this. So thank you very much, Chalaji. This is an excellent session that we have had. So I want to
Thank you
thank you
for
very much.
inviting.
That
Thank
was
you. Namaste.